The side-by-side comparison that you've probably seen on Twitter or whatever social media platform you frequent does not give you chills of seeing the All Might and All for One side-by-side comparison of the now it's your turn with the pointing finger doesn't give you chills. I don't know what in My Hero Academia is going to give you chills, because this is one of my favorite moments in the series as a whole, and personally, my favorite callback to a previous chapter panel moment in the entire series. And the fact is, this chapter is amazing outside of that one callback as well, setting up, I wouldn't say a clear path, but a really good idea of what the future is going to come, a possible quirk reveal, and so much more. My name is Andrew Nimsger, and today I'm going to be breaking down everything that happened in chapter 316 of My Hero Academia, titled Your Turn, after that final panel. If you guys enjoyed this video or are looking for other My Hero Academia content, go and check out the Class 1A podcast, Class 1A pod on YouTube. You're already watching us here on YouTube. Subscribe, leave a comment, like, turn on notifications. You know the gig, to make sure to get even more awesome My Hero Academia content. But let's jump right into chapter 316, which starts with Endeavor arriving on the scene, saying that he got a call from I Am All Might and that he was a little slow to arrive because it was raining, which makes sense because his quirk's all fire. So why wouldn't he be a little slow in the water? But Hawks also interrupts, calling for help, saying that he's not quite ready to fly yet as he goes in to grab Lady Nagant. So Deku uses Black Whip to grab him and kind of hold him up as he's using Float to get them all down to the ground safely. Hawks tells Lady Nagant that he's her successor and that he can't believe she would let All for One manipulate him. Tells him that you are better than this and that you're a hero, and that especially after fighting against Deku, you should know more than anything that there's still a chance and to come back over and work with us. Lady Nagant starts to regain consciousness and doesn't exactly know who Hawks is, but still sees a fire in his eyes even after kind of putting together that he's probably working for the commission as well and doing the exact same thing that she did. She screams that her orders were to deliver Deku to a mansion in the Hollow Woods within the next 2 months as they all touch the ground, and warns him that she's not the only one, that All for One sent a bunch of other big bad villains after Deku as well, and we get a little bit of a panel shot, kind of getting an idea of them, but none of them looking too familiar. She also asks how he's able to still be optimistic, and that the dark side of it all wasn't enough, and it broke her heart pretty much. And he said that I wasn't alone and that I'm an optimistic guy, even seeing a panel of him holding the Endeavor kind of doll of when he was younger. Endeavor arrives with Kai Chisaki saying that he was the only other one. Overhaul, I'm just going to call him that, keeps demanding, like, no, this wasn't part of the deal. You had to take me to the boss, blah, blah, blah. And that Deku kind of goes and said, do you remember me? He starts screaming back at her, like, you're a disgusting maggot or something kind of like that, just insulting him and saying that I am going to live up with your part of the deal. Do you remember Eerie? And put some of that emotion into apologizing to Eerie with how badly you want to see the boss, and that he will still honor the deal. And that's kind of where it ends with that point, saying that they have both been kind of secured and are be taking away the police for medical aid, while Hawks also says Deku needs to get patched up as well. We see a little bit of a jump to go to the forest, the mansion in this woods, which we learn is the Creature Rejection Clan's hideout, which is basically a bunch of people that rejected the people that had the animal-like quirks and just didn't like that idea, but they're not there anymore. And he's also accompanied by Endeavor, Hawks, and the Lurkers, which is like Mountain Lady, Kami Woods, and that whole crew. They make their way, and Deku goes in first with Endeavor and Hawks kind of right behind them, saying not to be reckless, but they find it empty, and only with All for One sarcastically having a hollow there, kind of talking and asking if he enjoyed his QA with Lady Nagant, that he loves to anticipate and guess what people are going to do, especially ones like Deku, because he knows that he's not going to be able to abandon Lady Nagant and that he's going to follow through with all this. He also adds that he didn't force Lady Nagant to join her, but instead she chose to help. And it's that those are the ones that fall and get labeled as villains that really don't need to, even if they're just taking pride in their own quirk. And that you can't fit this into this controlled society, and kind of going on talking about society as a whole, saying that human nature, no matter how society is dictated, is always going to be excluding rather than about including. All for One tells Deku that he took a thorny path of heroism, saying that every fight is going to wear on his soul more and more and kind of bring him down, and also reveals that while in prison, he never stopped thinking about Deku, that All Might's in the past, he no longer has interest in him, and points to him and say, now it's your turn, as the mansion explodes and the chapter ends. And holy shit, again, that moment at the end, right as the chapter ends, saying now it's your turn, such a cool moment, but also kind of getting the conclusion of Lady Nagant, the short moment between Hawks and Lady Nagant. Now we learn they don't have any real connection together outside of the work for the commission, but still that really touching moment there. We're also maybe getting Eerie back in the story finally. We saw that Mirio showed back up during the Liberation War arc and kind of saved the day for a second there. So obviously he got his quirk back and that Eerie has much more control. So does that mean Eerie is going to save Lady Nagant? Is Overhaul somehow going to come back in the picture and she's going to use her quirk in a full big picture thing to kind of bring him back and maybe have him come back over, or at least not be a hero, but fighting against All for One? I think there's more to the Overhaul kind of conclusion that we're going to have to get, especially with Eerie coming back into the picture. I'm very, very excited to do that. And I'm assuming that's maybe how Deku's being healed. I just feel like Eerie still has a part to play in the role with how big of a deal. I mean, there's a whole arc about her quirk and how she still can't control it even after that. And then bringing Mirio back in the picture really shows she has that control finally, which is so cool to think about for what that means for the future. But also, with the explosion going on, we had Endeavor and I think Hawks in there with them. I don't think they're going to put Endeavor in the hospital again. He just got out of like it felt like a month stay in there. There's a bunch of chapters in the hospital. So putting him back in it doesn't make sense. So I actually think we're going to get some kind of defensive quirk reveal here for Deku, or some kind of moment here. Obviously, Deku isn't dead. I don't think we're going to put him back in the hospital either because he just got out recently. I know there's a time jump, but putting him back in the hospital in the manga would feel weird because there hasn't been that many chapters, probably only 10, 15 since he was in the hospital for a decent stay. So putting him back in there doesn't make sense. So this could be the chance to finally see the last quirk reveal, and it being not an invincibility bubble or anything kind of overpowered like that, but maybe a damage nullification, or able to put up some kind of small term shield that can protect him and keep Endeavor and Hawks from dying. Maybe one of them do die. But I think coming out of this explosion, something is going to happen, whether it's a character death or it's some kind of quirk reveal. I think is the two big things coming out of the explosion. And then lastly, the other people that were teased that were coming after Deku, I think is going to play a part of this as well. Obviously, we don't know exactly how big of a jump it was until they went into this mansion. So maybe they fought other people and that may be just kind of thrown off in a conversation they have in a couple of chapters. Or there's going to be a bunch of mini boss fights or like a Monster of the Week style coming up where Deku and the other heroes are going to fight off against villains kind of until they get closer to All for One. Because we actually don't have any more leads to get closer to actually stopping him. But nonetheless, I just think those mini kind of boss fights are going to come into play. Because why else do the off comment saying she wasn't the only one if they're not going to come into play? So again, wrapping it up here, what an amazing chapter that side by side is going to be something that I am going to think about forever. It's one of my favorite moments of My Hero. If you didn't pick up the reference, we posted that on our Twitter. You can go see it all over Twitter as well, the side by side comparison. I probably even put it up somewhere here in the video and editing. You know how that all works after the fact. But thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and that you'll all be back next Sunday for another recap. See you guys then.